Hey guys, my name is Haley, and today I'm going to be filming my slightly belated January wrap-up. So let's just get right on into it and see all the books that I read in the month of January. So the first book that I finished in the month of January was Onyx, which is the second half of this bind-up of the first two books in the Lux series. Really liked these first two books, but after I got better from being sick, after I think it was New Year's, I kind of just fell out of interest with the series for now. I think I am still gonna finish it, but I got my fix that I needed of something Twilight-esque with these two books. I will continue the series, I believe, just not anytime soon, I don't think. We'll see. But I gave Onyx, I believe, 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I picked up Chew Volume 1, Taster's Choice. And I've been interested in this graphic novel series for a very long time just because I think the concept is interesting. That he can chew human flesh and, like, know the past of where and how the person died and all of that because he's a crime investigator. But I really didn't like this very much, and I was kind of surprised. I knew it was gonna be gross because of the premise, but it was, like, extra disgusting. Like, it just grossed me out. There was some really unnecessarily, like, super foul language along with the grossing me out, and I was not for it. At this point, I don't know if I'm gonna pick up the rest of the volumes, but, like, if I find them for cheap, maybe, but even I might just wait to get them from the library because I don't really want to buy them if I'm not sure that I'm gonna like them. I think I gave this 2 stars. Next up, I read a book in one sitting that I hadn't planned on reading at all anytime soon. And that was The Devil in Pew Number 7 by Rebecca Nichols Alonso. This is it's kind of a memoir of this girl, Rebecca, and her life story from how her parents met to how her parents got together and met in church, and how she grew up with her father as a pastor in a church in North Carolina in the South, and the difficulties that her family faced while her father was the pastor of that church. It's a memoir, but it's set up kind of as a novel. Like, it feels like you're reading an actual novel. And some of the things and the events that happen are so crazy that you almost think that this could very easily be a fictional novel. But this is stuff that actually happened to her family, and essentially, without giving away too many spoilers, her father was harassed by a member of the congregation who was sort of like a business dealer down in this town, the small town in North Carolina that they went to. This old man's job, in his mind, was to get her father kicked out of the church and, like, make sure the congregation didn't want him because her father was docking on a lot of the things that he owned in the area. Like, he took him off the church board because he was doing bad things with the money and all kinds of crazy things. And so the main issue is that this old man pays off people in the town to bomb this pastor's house with his young daughter and his newborn son. Him and his wife, and he's so sneaky about it that the police can't do anything because they don't have any proof to tie him to it. And it's just like an ongoing battle for years and years and years, and the effect that it has on this family. And it was just an insane ride of a book. This was honestly my favorite book that I read this month, and I was not expecting to read it in one sitting, let alone to be so affected by it. And this book, like this edition of it in particular, has an added chapter to the end of the aftermath, like years and years later. And it was just so heartwarming and so touching and such a good testament of the ability God has to give people the ability to forgive. And I loved it. I would highly recommend, even if you're not, like, super into Christian novels, this reads like a straight up thriller fiction novel. It's that crazy. I don't have words to explain this, but please read it if you're at all interested in that concept. Look it up on Goodreads. Just give it a chance if you find it, because I really, really, really enjoyed it. Next up, I finished Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy by Cassandra Clare, Sarah Reese Brennan, Maureen Johnson, and Robin Wasserman. This book, I was really iffy about reading it, and the only reason I read it is because I heard that it's very important to read it before Lady Midnight. And here's a little backstory on me. I don't like Simon. I did not like him in The Mortal Instruments. I do like him a lot more in the Mortal Instruments Shadowhunters show, but on a whole, I did not like Simon in the Mortal Instruments. So I was really iffy about reading this, but I have to say that I really like the Simon that's in this book. I like who he turns out to be and the way that he presents himself at Shadowhunter Academy and how he fights for the rights of people and against the Clave and everything and a lot of what they believe in and he thinks is wrong and he's determined to change it. I believe my favorite in this was Born to Endless Night. My second favorite was The Whitechapel Fiend. And then I really love the last one in here, which is Angels Twice Descending. And without any spoilers whatsoever, I cried my eyes out when I finished this book, and that's all I'm gonna say. Like, I was crying for like a good 15 minutes after finishing the novel, and I was just so upset, and I did not expect to be that like affected by this book since I wasn't a huge fan of Simon, but I do really love who Simon has turned into, and I'm really excited to see how he is in any later Cassandra Clare books. There were a couple in here that I didn't like though, so I did end up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars because I think I gave a couple like a 2.53 star rating. But I really enjoyed this. I would definitely recommend reading it before Lady Midnight, even though I haven't read Lady Midnight yet. Next up, I randomly picked up Willful Machines by Tim Florine on a whim. Well, it wasn't a complete whim. I had heard Kate over at Kate File mention this book, and she really enjoyed it, and it really intrigued me, and I was like, hey, I have that on my shelves, and I just never thought to pick it up for some reason. And this really surprised me. I think I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, but I really liked the world that it's set in, of there's all of these robotics, and it's like, it is sort of dystopian, but it's almost sci-fi dystopian. I don't really know how to explain it, but the main idea behind this is that there is an artificial intelligence robotic thing that has been terrorizing the world called Charlotte, and these kids are at a boarding school. The main boy is gay. He's in the closet. He's the son of the president of the United States, and it's just, the first half of it is kind of like a contemporary romance, almost with like slight robotics thrown in there, but the second half of this was crazy. I loved the talk it had on artificial intelligence, and I really enjoyed it. It was a really interesting world. I loved all of his little creatures that he made, and I just loved it. Also, I really love the cover of this, and I really like the writing, so I would definitely pick up something else by Tim Florine in the future. Next, I did a reread of City of Bones, and I actually lowered my rating of this because I like the Shadowhunter world. I think Cassandra Clare's books and writing have improved a ton since this one. If I had just read this for the first time now, rather than the 2 years ago when I read it the first time, I think I would have given this like a 2 or a 3 star. Because the world intrigues me and I really like it, but I don't like Clary. I don't love Jace. I don't like Simon. I don't like any of the characters. Like, I disagree with so many things that they say and do, and I know a lot of it is because they're young, like they're like 15, 16 in this. And one thing I think the show got right is that they aged up the characters and made them less annoying, in my opinion. But I am reading this along with the Mortal Instruments read-along that's going on. I know Ashley from A Dash of Ash and Taylor from Book of Flicks Taylor are 2 of the people involved in the read-along of reading the entire Mortal Instruments and the Infernal Devices in publication order. And this is the book for the month of January, so I did enjoy rereading it, but this is not my favorite Cassandra Clare book by any means, nor my favorite series, but I do remember them getting a little better as the series went on, so I am looking forward to continuing my reread. And I also really want to reread The Infernal Devices, so I'm excited for that. And then lastly, the last book I finished in the month of January was The Story, which has a foreword by Max Lucado and Randy Frazee. This is essentially the Bible, but put into a sort of novel format to make it easier to follow the storyline, the main storyline of the Bible. So it is split into the Old and New Testament, but a lot of stuff is left out just to make it more cohesive of an actual storyline. And I liked it. It was interesting. I read it as a daily devotional, so because there's 31 chapters in here and there were 31 days in the month of January, so I do recommend reading it that way. It's not my favorite interpretation or edition of the Bible, but I do think it's very good for people who struggle with actually reading the Bible and like following the events, because this does bring it into a very like cohesive storyline. I also write in my Christian nonfiction. I don't know if I've showed you before, but there's a ton of outlining and underlining and all kinds of crazy things that I wrote in here, so I would highly recommend it if this sounds like an interesting way to read the Bible for you if you do struggle with that. So I did like it. I gave it 4 stars. Although it's weird to give the Bible 4 stars. Because it's the Bible and but it's a book. Yeah, I feel weird about it. The record, I gave the actual Bible 5 stars. I'm just gonna stop right here. So those are all the books I read in the month of January. I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you all for watching, and I will see all of you guys next time.